Welcome back to our channel. Many people study English for months or even years, but they still feel stuck. They learn vocabulary, they study grammar, they watch English videos, yet speaking still feels difficult. The reason is simple. Learning English is not only about studying harder. It is about training your brain the right way. Your brain learns through repetition, exposure, practice, and consistency. When you understand how your brain learns, English becomes easier, faster, and more natural. In today's video, you will discover how to train your brain to learn English effectively and how simple daily habits can help you become a more confident English speaker. So stay with me until the end, because these lessons can completely change the way you learn English. Now let's begin. Lesson 1. Understand how your brain learns English. Before you can train your brain to learn English effectively, you need to understand one important truth. Your brain is already designed to learn languages. The problem is not that your brain cannot learn English. The problem is that many people try to learn English in ways that do not match how the brain naturally learns. As a result, learning feels difficult. It feels slow. And sometimes it feels frustrating. But when you understand how your brain actually learns, everything starts to make more sense. Think about how you learned your first language. When you were a child, nobody handed you a huge vocabulary book. Nobody taught you thousands of grammar rules. Nobody expected you to speak perfectly from the beginning. Instead, you learned through exposure. You heard words every day. You heard sentences every day. You listened. You copied. You practiced. You made mistakes. Little by little, your brain learned the language. English learning follows many of the same principles. Your brain learns best through repeated exposure and meaningful practice. One of the biggest mistakes learners make is believing that learning English is only about memorization. They spend hours trying to memorize vocabulary lists. They memorize grammar rules. They memorize definitions. While memorization can help, it is not enough. Your brain needs more than information. It needs experience. Imagine trying to learn how to ride a bicycle by reading a book. You could study every rule. You could understand every technique. But until you actually get on the bicycle, true learning will not happen. English works in a similar way. Reading about English is useful. Using English is essential. Another important truth is that your brain learns through repetition. The first time you hear a new word, your brain may not remember it. The second time, it becomes a little more familiar. The third time, it becomes easier to recognize. After many repetitions, the word becomes part of your vocabulary. This is why repetition is so powerful. Many learners become impatient. They hear a word once and expect to remember it forever. That is not how the brain works. The brain strengthens connections through repeated exposure. Think about a path through a forest. The first time someone walks through it, the path is difficult to see. But if people walk the same route every day, the path becomes clearer and easier to follow. Your brain works in a similar way. Every time you hear, read, speak, or write English, you strengthen the pathways connected to the language. Over time, those pathways become stronger, and stronger pathways create faster understanding and smoother speaking. Many learners expect quick results. They study for a few weeks and wonder why they are not fluent. They compare themselves to advanced speakers and become discouraged. But language learning is not an overnight process. It is a gradual process. Think about growing a tree. You plant a seed, then you water it, you care for it, you give it time. The tree does not appear instantly. Growth happens little by little. English learning follows the same pattern. Every lesson, every conversation, every page you read, every minute you listen, all of these actions are helping your brain grow stronger, even when you cannot immediately see the results. Another important lesson is that emotions affect learning. When learners feel relaxed and interested, the brain learns more effectively. When learners feel stressed, afraid, or overwhelmed, learning becomes harder. This is why enjoying the learning process matters. If you constantly tell yourself, English is too difficult, I am terrible at English, I will never become fluent, your brain begins associating English with negative feelings. A better approach is to focus on progress, celebrate improvements, recognize effort, be patient with yourself. Positive emotions help create a better learning environment for your brain. Another powerful truth is that your brain learns by making connections. New information becomes easier to remember when it is connected to something meaningful. For example, learning vocabulary through stories is often easier than memorizing isolated words. Learning phrases through conversations is often easier than studying random sentences. Your brain loves patterns. It loves connections. The more meaningful the information, the easier it becomes to remember. This is why reading, listening, speaking, and real-life practice are so effective. They give your brain context, and context strengthens learning. Now imagine two learners. The first learner studies English only occasionally. The second learner interacts with English every day. They listen, they read, they speak, they practice consistently. After several months, who is likely to improve more? Usually the second learner, not because they are smarter, not because they have special talent, but because they are giving their brain more opportunities to learn. And learning happens through exposure and repetition. Remember, your brain is not your enemy. Your brain is a powerful learning machine. It is constantly adapting, constantly growing, constantly building new connections. The key is giving it the right conditions. Regular exposure, daily practice, repetition, patience, and meaningful interaction with the language. When you understand how your brain learns English, you stop fighting the process. You stop expecting instant results. You stop relying only on memorization. Instead, you begin working with your brain instead of against it. And that is the first step toward learning English faster, more effectively, and more confidently. Because once you understand how your brain learns, you can begin training it for success.